WFD TV presents Gentle Giant with Pam Minnick and Katie Kaufman.
This week we're in Mackinac Island, Michigan in the Great Lakes, where gentle giants are a big part of everyday life. This is like taking a step back in time. There are no motorized vehicles here, and if you want to get around, it's a horse or a bicycle.
You're right, Pam, and it's not just transportation for the visitors. Every function, from garbage collection to deliveries, are performed with heavy horses. There are more horses on the island than there are full-time residents.
We'll take you along as we explore Mackinac Island when Gentle Giants begins. Welcome back to Gentle Giants. Traces of the earliest inhabitants of Mackinac Island date back 1,000 years. In the 1890s, tourists attempt to bring horseless carriages, or cars, to the island, spooking the horse-drawn vehicles. So motorized vehicles were outlawed then, 125 years ago. And since then, the residents and tourists have embraced a slower way of life.
The laid-back atmosphere on the island. On vacation, you should slow down, and we give them the perfect opportunity to do so.
And I've never been on an island that they didn't talk about island time, and we have island time here too. And we also have horse-drawn time, so it all kinds of adds up. Customers say we'd like to hurry, and you know, hurrying is just not part of our life.
Since everything is horse-drawn or biking, it forces you to move a little bit slower. People are relaxed. And we hear a lot of that, both when they're on the island and when they get home. It's just, you notice a big difference.
Mackinac Island is a place where you see the horse working the way they were 100 years ago or 150 years ago. Not much has changed here other than the size of the horse. The harnesses are the same basically, everything's about the same. It's the way it was 100 years ago. And you can see, you know, people get off the boat and they'll walk up on the main street and they'll look, and I don't know if they're looking for a car or what they're looking for, but they're not going to find one, you know. And they seem to, you know, really, you know, get the feeling of how it was a few years back.
Well, we have about approximately 1 million visitors in our summer season, and really it's an adventure from the moment you step on the ferry dock, because you're parking your car on the mainland, you're riding over on the ferry, which is an adventure in itself, and you are stepping onto a street with no cars and all horses. It's half excitement and then really soothing. We've noticed a lot of kids that are on the ferry, they just are completely calm, they're just so entranced by what's going on. And when people get off the ferry and they see these gigantic, beautiful animals on the street, they're just excited. I mean, it's like being a child all over again.
When you see people get off that ferry, you see all kinds of different reactions. I mean, you'll see people surprised by the number of horses here. We see lots of horsemen. We see lots of Amish people come. And so those horsemen recognize this variety of horses, for one thing. They recognize a lot of the challenges we have with our horses. And when we get to talk and interact with those people, you know, I guess they get as enthusiastic as we are about it.
My great-grandfather, Thomas Chambers, he's the guy that led the movement to ban automobiles on Mackinac Island. And he came here just before 1840 and was in the trading business with the Indians, believe it or not, and then went on from there because they were horse guys. And then after the Civil War, we got into the tourist business here, and we've been doing it ever since. It's just, you know, it is unique, and it's our life to keep it going.
Horses themselves here, they saturate the entire society. Okay, we don't get our grain delivered by truck. We use horses for everything. These are things that the horses actually did. They delivered freight in the cities. They delivered the groceries. They delivered their own feed. They also haul the tourists. They haul people.
You'll see horses doing everything from hauling all the food to all the restaurants, the construction materials to any building that's going on. There were people, you might see them towing a boat one of the cottagers' boats or something. Years back, we even towed an airplane that crashed at the airport.
Horse operation here really covers every aspect. We have horses here that are taxi horses, which are horses that can cover ground and be pretty prompt about their work. We have horses here that are what we call utility horses. A utility horse is like a utility tractor. It's usually a crossbred horse between a draft horse and some kind of light horse, often a standard bred. And those are horses that can both work with some speed but also take a load. And so we use those horses on most of our tour type carriages. And then we have one of the very biggest of draft horses to do our heavy work. We have 3 horse, 35 passenger vehicles that we use back away from town. We have 25 passenger 2-horse vehicles. We have dray wagons, we have garbage wagons, we have hay wagons. We move 600 bales of hay a day from the docks up these hills to the barns. And so all the things that it takes to run a fairly large community, we have to do by horsepower. So we have everything from sport horses to the heavy draft horses like semi-trucks.
Fun to see the different teams. They have fun names and the teams that are together. I love listening to the stories of the taxi drivers and the carriage tours because they all have cute anecdotes of how the horses act together. And I particularly have a favorite. I don't know his name, but he has the most wonderful mustache, and it's so fun because it's very creative and it looks like the handlebar mustache. It's neat.
When Gentle Giants returns, we'll give you a behind-the-scenes look inside the carriage barns. You won't want to miss it.
Welcome back to Gentle Giants on Mackinac Island. Having over 300 horses and round-the-clock horse taxi service requires detailed scheduling of feeding, harnessing, and hitching, and a lot of teamwork.
I'm the barn manager and I've been here for 32 years. We have each barn crew feeds the horses, but I make sure they get the job done. I do all the ordering for the feed, oats, pellets. Certainly don't want to run out of feed here, that's for sure. In the morning, the horses that work that day are already in the barn. Driver comes in, gets them cleaned and harnessed, washes them, hook them up to the carriage. And then the barn crew will go out into the field and get their switch team. Bring them in, clean them, harness them, feed them. Around 12:30 they bridle everything up and we start the switch for the day. Give the carriages new horses. Old horses, or morning horses, excuse me, will come in, get unharnessed, fed, and then they'll get booted out into the field for the night to roam around. The barn leader each morning will go through, check the shoes on the horses, give the blacksmiths a shoe list, what they think needed. And they also will usually have a list for the veterinarian and any care needed for the horses.
We have the taxis here on the island which run 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, and that's year-round. In the summertime, for the most part, each driver has 2 teams. They work their afternoon team for 4 or 5 hours, then they go in the barn for the night, come back out the following morning for 4 or 5 hours, then they go in the pasture for 24 after that. We'll start a horse here as young as a 3-year-old, and we're working some right now that are right around 30. We've got 20 passenger carriages. We've got 13 12 passenger taxis. We've got 8 private livery carriages that hold 7 or 8 people. We also have 16 35 passenger carriages, and then there's wedding carriages and such as well that we have in our arsenal that are used on occasion as well. Look at the boards in the various barns and see which carriages have issues and work on those. If there's nothing to be done that's immediate, then I start helping with the horses, hooking them up. Each driver is responsible to get their teams ready, but they need help to hook up.
Up here I'm surrounded by horsemen. And so that's one of the real things that's a pleasure to me. I come from a carriage background. I have carriage horses and have been in the competitive carriage world. And so those type of horses are a joy to me. These heavy horses are something that I've been around all my life. And so all the things that a horseman could love are here. We have horses that are grown up and physically and mentally ready to go to work. So the biggest challenges we have, of course, are lameness. We need to keep our horses sound and comfortable. Because of the speed that we work, which is not fast, and because of the maturity of our horses, those are pretty small issues for us, really. Foot care is a big thing. Everyone that's ever had a horse knows that if you don't have a foot, you don't have a horse. And draft horses, that's sometimes a weak link in a draft horse, particularly working on the pavement like we do, so we pay close attention to foot care. Shoeing appropriately, whether it be rubber shoes or steel shoes. If we can keep that under control, usually our health issues are pretty small. Probably the next thing on the list is nutrition. They're working hard, and they have to eat like an athlete, and so we have to mind our nutrition closely. Most of our horses are fed 3 times a day, but if we need to make adjustments for that, we do. Well, and of course, tack, proper fitting tack, so we don't get sores, so we don't have horses that can't perform their best.
Getting the horses to the island is an incredible experience to see. It happens right downtown, and while we don't publicize it or talk about it, anyone who just happens to be really standing where we are right now, they can catch a glimpse. They unload the horses right off the boat, and if you're lucky enough, you can even be on the boat with the horses, and they walk them right up the hill. It's really cool.
Every horse in the last 40 years that came to Mackinac Island for carriage tours for us to work came through my brother Jim Chambers. He handled every one of them. And he winters the horses for us also. He winters them at Pickford, Michigan, which is north of us about 30 to 35 miles. We keep about maybe 12 to 15 horses here in the wintertime. And that's for the freight wagons, a taxi, UPS, we deliver UPS, things like that. We start bringing the horses back in the spring when the boat starts to run. When the ice goes out and the boat starts to run, then we start bringing these horses back little by little by little by little. And usually by the 4th of July weekend, we have as many as we're going to bring for the year, which could be, short of 300, something like that. The largest number of horses that we ever owned was 404 head.
They've all been on a horse trailer or a horse truck before. Some of them are purchased from Amish farms and have never been off the farm, but most of them were purchased at a horse sale someplace, and so they know how to get on a trailer. You generally look at the horses when you're getting ready to put them on the boat, and if we've got a new one, we don't want that one to be the last one. We want an old timer to be in front of them or behind them to help assist and make them think it's okay.
These old horses here are smart. When you'll see them downtown, you'll see them pull up, you'll see these horses stop, you'll see them drop their heads, they'll roll that collar forward and they'll let that air flow over their back and up inside the collar and up over their withers and get themselves comfortable. Grand Hotel, we use fly nets on our horses throughout the summer season. You'll see these horses with hitch harness on and fly nets over them. Grand Hotel is part of this Green Lodging Michigan Coalition to help kind of make things a little more eco-friendly in the lodging industry. And one of the things they asked us to do as departments was to figure out ways to reduce some of the chemicals we used. That was a way that we could reduce the amount of fly repellent that we use. Neat thing with those fly nets is these old horses be standing there, and you'll see one of them horses and he'll have his head down, he'll be just kind of standing there, roll a shoulder forward, and 3 or 4 flies will fly off that side. They learn how to use those fly nets.
We'll show you the historic sights and the beauty of Mackinac Island when Gentle Giants returns. Stay with us.
Welcome back to Gentle Giants. Since cars were banned in 1898, the horse is king and the best way to see all that Mackinac Island has to offer. From historic Fort Mackinac and Fort Holmes to the elegant hotels and summer homes, we're going to show you all that Mackinac Island has to offer from a horse-drawn carriage.
This is one of the joys of being here on this island. A pair of the Grand Hotel's hackneys coming. That's Ben Mosley is the whip. These are purebred registered hackney horses. Sometimes you'll see Ben with 4 up, sometimes with a pair. And Ben is one of the real horsemen on this island.
I have the most unique job in the world. I am stable manager for Grand Hotel Stables, and I'm also head coachman for the Musser family owners of Grand Hotel. My boss gives me 12 horses to play with. I've had a passion for horses my entire life, and then I have about 25 carriages at my access. All but 2 of them are over 100 years old.
Fort Mackinac is one of them that people seem to like, built in 1780 and 81 by the British. Grand Hotel, built in 1887. And there's also Arch Rock, which is a natural limestone formation. Surrey Hill Square, which is an antique carriage museum. The Butterfly Conservatory is up there where people go in, basically a greenhouse, and butterflies land on you from all different parts of the country. That is another highlight for people. And the historical downtown district here. We've got houses back from 1780 here on the island. The historical blacksmith shop, which is just 50 feet from us here as well. We also give different types of tours. There's the public tours, which are approximately an hour and 45 minutes. And they go from town and give you the highlights of what is here on Mackinac. And also you can get a private livery carriage per hour, and they'll take you any place you'd care to go, or they have a chosen route that they take as well. Maybe see some of the fancy cottages here on the island or off the beaten path type places.
I have a real love for history, so the use of the carriages and things like that is another thing that I think is great. When I go to museums, I love seeing all the old carriages, all the old stuff, but in a way it makes me sad because carriages really kind of want to be used. And I see that in these carriages because I have a blast driving them. Driving a pair or 4-in-hand down through town, people are looking. You're riding on a 100-year-old carriage, you got the top hat on, everybody's looking, so it's kind of fun. You're kind of the center of attention no matter what you do. I like to watch horses and people interact. Every little kid that comes off the island, that's the first thing, or onto the island, that's the first thing they say, oh, look at the horses. It's always a very, very unique thing to watch when you're downtown is just the look on the kids' faces, because a lot of people nowadays, it's the first time they've been close to a horse.
To me, the neatest thing is when you get the little ones that aren't even able to talk, and their parents might have them in a little stroller or the wagon, and they're, well, that's neat to see for me. And the old timers, when you see a guy with bib overalls on and a feed mill cap, and you can see it in his eyes, he's reliving his childhood.
You really get to experience things in a whole different light. There are all sorts of different smells of the fudge and different textures, and the air is pure, and it makes it fun to do our jobs because anyone that's coming here, they're coming for vacation. That's our market, and so it's always an exciting time, and people just have a smile on their face the whole time they're here.
We want to thank all of you for watching Gentle Giants this time. Pam and I had a truly incredible time here in Mackinac Island.
The hospitality was over the top. We want to thank Bo Belinsky for arranging this special journey, Ben Mosley for an educational tour, and the folks at Mackinac Island Carriage Tours for all of the horses that they've shown us, all these great Gentle Giants. For more information on how you can plan a getaway here to Mackinac Island, visit MackinacIsland.org. We'll see you right back here next week on Gentle Giants.
And in the meantime, you can always see what's new on our Facebook page.
Bye now.
Special consideration provided by Lilac Tree Suites and Spa, Yankee Rebel Restaurant, the Jockey Club at the Grand Hotel.
Gentle Giants is brought to you in part by Total Feeds, and with me is Dr. Harry Anderson, the founder. And Dr. Anderson, as we walk through the draft horse barns, we're beginning to see more and more people feeding Total Equine. But it's not just good for big horses, it's good for all breeds. Tell us about it and why.
Well, yeah, when I first formulated this, I decided there was going to be one formulation that I could feed every animal to walk the face of the earth, whether they're 2 days old or 38 years old or everything in between, or if they're 2,000 pounds or if they're 300-pound mini. Because all those horses need the same nutrients at their cell level. So all I had to do is figure out a package that would feed the cell of the animal. Then I figured out how to make the delivery system fit every different situation. And all we do now is vary the feeding rate of this according to body size. So yes, we have been able to come up with something that fits whatever working horse there is, an idle horse there is, whether they're barrel racing, team roping, hunter jumper, pulling a wagon, or standing in the front yard.